Hey there, welcome, good morning, good afternoon, amazing real estate agents, superstars. It's Coach Bill Pipes coming at you, as always, alive, excited, and full of Halloween energy. Wearing my orange pumpkin shirt in celebration of this wonderful Halloween week that we have coming up here, or that we're in now at this point, and have such a cool interview here today, man. I have been looking forward to this more than you guys know. In fact, we've been talking, my buddy and I have been talking about doing this interview for, my gosh, probably almost since Real Success started. And, it's really interesting because when I look at success, and I'm going to keep this really short, when I look at success and the highly successful individuals, one of the things that I notice that they always do is they're constantly evolving. They're always looking for, what's my next series of steps to grow, rather than getting set in one way of doing business or set in one way of running their life. They're constantly, what is it that my buddy Tony Robbins says? CANI, constant and never ending improvement. That's what the top producers do. And not just the top producers in real estate, but the top producers in life. And you compare that to individuals that get stuck. They just get stuck in one way of doing something, one way of running their business, one way that they are in their relationship, one way they are with their health and vitality, and they're never looking for that next edge. And see, I think life is all about growth, man. It's all about adventure. It's all about, the adventure of, who am I going to become in this next year? Who am I going to become over the next 5 or 10 years? And constantly evolving, constantly changing, constantly moving forward. And the person that I have the chance to have just this sit down, this conversation with here today, is someone that I've known for, my gosh, probably 15 years, 16 years. And I have watched this young man, grow into a mature business individual, and been inspired by him every single step of the way. And so I know you will be too. So, hey, Real Success Nation, you are in for a treat. I want to introduce my close friend, Mr. Jimmy Rex from Provo, Utah. Hello, Jimmy.
How's it going, Bill? Thank you. Appreciate the intro there.
Yeah, hey man, you have worked to deserve that. So why don't you tell them who you are, where you sell real estate, and a little bit about your business right now.
Yeah, so I'm in Utah area, Salt Lake City, Utah, Provo, Utah. I do about half and half in those two areas. Been in the business for 12 years now. And then this year, I think closed and pending, I'm right around 200. So I'll end up, somewhere between just over 200, 250 mark.
Now, are you doing that with a big team, Jimmy? Do you have like 20 people on your team, or how many people are on your team?
I've got 2 buyer's agents and then 2 assistants. That's that makes up the team. I got to keep mine pretty small.
So unlike some of these enormous teams doing 200 transactions, it's you, 2 buyer's agents, 2 assistants. So you've got to be pretty profitable, man. This has got to be a great profitable business model.
Yeah, for me, there's a quality of life I want to go with being a part of my team. And I got agents, if you're not doing a minimum 30, 40 deals a year, I don't think you're going to have the quality of life that, your money problems start to become my money problems. And for me, this business is all about creating a life that's worth living, and really being able to enjoy it along the way. So we've kept ours. I would grow my team more if I found the right fits, for sure. But for now, I love having, each of my agents, my buyer's agents, will do at least 40 deals this year. And we just have an awesome time. We have an awesome team, and it's fun. It's fun to go to work every day.
Have you, in terms of the growth itself, take us through like last 3 or 4 years in terms of production. Have you always been at 200, or have you been, sort of chipping away and getting more and more and more?
Yeah, no, my first year in the business, I did have a really good year. I think I sold 60 homes my first year. That was when the market was just going insane back in 2005, 2006. And so I, started thinking I was, pretty good at this thing. And then the crash hit, and we did okay. I was usually the top team in the company still, the local brokerage or whatever. But I wasn't, we were surviving. We were just trying to get by for a few years there. And then in 2010, we kind of took a different model and approach. And from then we went from 90 sales to 130, 185. And then this year we'll do, just over 200 or whatever it is. So.
Great. So, and just over 200. So brother, I want to talk about like the beginning, and then I want to get to what's happened the last 3 years. Okay. Because obviously, being stuck at 60, not a bad place to be stuck, 60 to 90. However, I know you, man, you're always driving, always pushing forward, always looking for that next hoop to jump through. So been in the business for 12 years. What were you doing before real estate? How did you, like, what led you into real estate in the first place, man?
Yeah, so I answered an ad in the newspaper. I was a door-to-door meat salesman. If you've ever seen those guys come by with their meat trucks, we would go knock on your door or go to your business and try to sell steak and chicken door to door. I literally did that for like 2.5 years, was selling steak and chicken door to door. And I mean, it's tough work, you know, you're hawking chicken and steak, and I enjoyed it and everything, but I just wanted to sell something a little bit more meaningful. And so got into real estate, didn't really know what I was doing. I started working with a coaching program that taught me exactly. It was funny. I had a flyer. I always wondered how to work with for sale by owners, how to work with expired listings and do these different things. And this flyer was like, want to work with for sale by owners, want to work with expired listings. So I went to the seminar and you were teaching it. And that's where we first met.
Yeah.
And that was 11, 12 years ago or whatever. And I just remember like day one, I was like, wow, this is insane. You gave us a homework to go home and do it. And I did it, and I got like 2 appointments. I was like, holy cow, that actually worked. And then the next day I went back to the seminar. It was a 3-day seminar. And in day 2, I remember sitting next to this girl, because I was 24, I think, 23. And she was like, man, this is crazy what they want to, what they charge for coaching. That's like my mortgage payment. I'm like, yeah, I know. Like, and I think I had like my hat backwards and like holes.
Dude, I remember you completely had your hat backwards, wearing like, not even a polo shirt. You're wearing like a normal like t-shirt at the event.
Yeah. And I remember day 2, you gave us the homework, and I went home and I think I took 4 appointments. Again, I set like 2 buyers and 2 listings, and I was just like, holy cow, this is like really working. So day 3, I went up to you, and at the time I didn't have any money or anything. I mean, I was, just getting by, and I said, hey, look, if you're willing to do this with me, I want to sign up for this coaching, but I'm gonna have to put it on a credit card that I don't have yet. I need to go apply for a credit card. And so you took my info, I started up, and that was my first 3 or 4 months in real estate. I think I did 1 deal, and then the rest of the year I did the 59 or whatever once I signed up for the coaching. And so I kind of just barreled right into it, and dropped out of school and just went full board ahead and been doing real estate since.
So how did you do that? Obviously you have that hustle muscle. We talk about it. It's something that, you're Mormon, so you went on your mission, you got used to door to door and talking to individuals. Come out of that, then you move into hawking meat door to door. Was that like, did that prepare you? Because there's a lot of people that go, oh my gosh, I couldn't knock door to door every single day. How did he do it?
Well, yeah, how did you do it? I went to the seminar, and everybody was talking about the system that you were teaching, and I remember them talking about. There was like 4 of them having a Jamba Juice, and I went up and they all had their tag on, like they were already in the coaching program, and I just said, I said, so wait, so you guys do this, right? They're like, yeah, we do some of it, and I'm like, well, how much of it do you do? They're like, started laughing. They're like 15, 20%. I'm like, well, does it work? And they're like, yeah, it works. I said, well, then why do you only do 20% of it? And they were like, kind of like, you don't get it. And I was like, whatever. So when I signed up, I was used to either knocking doors 11 hours a day trying to sell a church, basically, a church message, which if you got one person to be interested in 11 hours, you were doing pretty good. And then I went from that to selling meat door to door, where, if you're trying to sell people steak and chicken from the back of your truck, all of a sudden calling for sell by owners and knocking old expired listings, to me, I was just like, oh, I don't have to do this for 3 or 4 hours a day, that's like how you build a real estate business. And it just, to me, it made so much logical sense. So I jumped in, and I was calling probably 70 FSBOs a day. And when I started, my numbers were like 1 out of 70, I'd probably get an appointment. So I just called till I got an appointment. It usually took me, 4 or 5 hours of calls, but I was 24. I didn't have anyone else to call, and I didn't have any business yet. So I just started calling away and building an SOI.
Okay. So fast forward now 8-9 years, you've been crushing for sale by owners. And I know people are probably like, oh my gosh, I want to know what is for sale by owner system, but hey guys, that's not the conversation today.
The beauty of it was in 2010, that's when I started coaching individually with you, and you had switched over to Tom's system.
Yeah.
And that's when everything changed for me. So back up, that first year, I listed in 2008 I listed 189 for sale by owners.
Wow.
That market was so brutal. 2008. I mean, anybody that you met was, needed 20% more than what their home was worth. And anybody that was buying a home, you had to tell them they were going to lose 20% in the next 3 years. So it was just a really hard market. And I survived, but barely. And I remember, and that was working twice as hard as I did the year before when I sold 65, 70 homes or whatever. And so I was just burned out, and I didn't want to do that. I couldn't call FSBOs anymore. I mean, of the 189 FSBOs that I listed, I think I sold like 15 of them or something. It was brutal. So I had to call 40 to 50 listings every Friday and tell them why their home wasn't listing or wasn't selling. And it was just the market we were in. And I came to you and I was like, I'm burned out, man. I can't do these FSBOs anymore. And you broke it down for me. And I actually wasn't making as much money as I thought off the FSBOs, even though I had listed so many of them. Like 2/3 of my business that year had still come from my SOI. And so we changed our entire game plan and set up an actual system to go after my SOI. And I went from, I think I had, in 2009, I think I sold like 32 homes or something. It wasn't a good year. And the next year, I think I hit 80. And then the next year is when things just started. Every year it was just a little bit more until, every year I've added about 30 more transactions to my total.
Jimmy, I remember that call. I remember us sitting down and breaking down the numbers, and just if I could have seen you, actually you were in the office. We did that in the office.
In your office. We did it on your whiteboard.
We did it on the whiteboard. I saw like the light bulb go off, and you're like, holy crap, man, I'm getting paid way too little for the amount of work that I'm doing. But it's a classic example of what gets us to one place doesn't necessarily translate to getting us to another.
Sure.
And so we didn't completely abandon the for sale by owners. However, you took a new sort of path, and we started looking at what is a natural strength for you. And I think that's for everyone that's listening right now, is you gotta identify what your natural strengths are, and those change based upon the business, based upon the market. So for you, Jimmy, what was the big shift that occurred that had your business go from 32 to 80 and 80 on upwards?
Well, yeah. So when I just saw that it was my network, that was bringing me most of these transactions, you and I sat down and you said, Jimmy, who do you know that has money? Because back in 2010, it was like there wasn't that many people that were buying or whatever. So we said, who has money? Who do you want to meet? And who do you currently know that you could help meet those people through? And we set up an actual strategy with each person. And then we had a game plan to go forward that every person we met, we weren't going to try to ask for business. We were building a powerful SOI, a powerful network. So we just set up, how can we help each of these people? And we had a list. It's funny, Bill, I've gone back and looked at that list. I wrote down 15 people in my community that were influencers, big time influencers. And I've now sold a home to 14 of them. And
that's amazing, man.
Yeah, it was pretty cool because we just set up a program. We said, okay. And so we took the 33 touch that, I'm with Keller Williams, the 33 touch that they teach. And we said, okay, here's the 33 touches. What are they going to be? And we set up, I remember I did my first client party and I was so nervous. I think I rented out a movie theater for the first one, and it was like 90 seats or something, it was just like a small movie, and Pirates of the Caribbean or something. And I remember, and I used that opportunity to call those people. And from the calls I made to invite people to the movie, I got 4 or 5 leads. And I was like, that was the easiest phone call I've ever made. I'd been calling FSBOs and getting my head kicked in. And even calling your SOI was kind of awkward because you're just calling and bugging them about getting real estate. But when I called them up and said, hey, I'm throwing a movie next Friday or next Thursday, the pre-premiere for Pirates of the Caribbean, want to see if you want a pair of free tickets. By the way, who do you know that's looking to buy or sell real estate? It was such a fun call, such an easy call. I'm like, I'm going to do this every month. So I partnered up with my insurance guy, my loan officer, so that I only had to pay 1/3 of the cost of each movie or each event that I did. And we just set up a system to go after that way. And then I went over to my local comedy club and I asked him, I said, hey, I'm going to send out a birthday card to 1,000 people a year, and I want to put a free pass to your comedy club. And would you be willing to give me? And he said, sure. I went to a cupcake lady. She gave me a free cupcake for the birthday. So I ended up sending, 5 or 6 a day, it seemed like, birthday cards out as well, where I would handwrite a birthday card, put a couple free things in there that didn't cost me $1, and mail those out every day. And I just started doing these little system things. started throwing I threw a firework party for the 4th of July. I threw a Christmas charity party in December, and everything just started snowballing
Dude, you know what's amazing is people see the end result. I mean, because I've been to your 4th of July. At least I think it was 2 years ago. I haven't had the chance. The last 2 years, went to the Christmas party last year. I mean, these are full-blown events now. I mean, the charity function was a lot of fun. I mean, it was incredible. How many people were at the Christmas charity function?
The Christmas party, we had about 500 people. We had a private. It was a black and white tie event, black and white gala. We did it for a charity that I work with called Operation Underground Railroad. They help children that are being exploited, things like that. And so we ended up having the who's who, tickets were like $100 a pop. We ended up having the who's who of Utah there. And it was funny because this organization, we did it for, they had a lot of people throw them events before. And when they came to ours, they weren't expecting much. They ended up calling all their top donors and said, you got to get down to this party. And so I got the top club in town to give us the space for free. He let us borrow it that night. I got a restaurant to cater the whole thing for us for free. And then I got 2 big bands, one called National Parks. You should check them out, they're amazing. And The Strike, both legit bands that tour. They both performed for free that night. And we ended up having, everybody that came was just just thought this event was top notch.
We did.
Well,
we did, and we go to a lot of charity events. Not only did we like it, what I like is that you had it as a function to be able to give back as well too. But what's interesting, Jimmy, is people see the end result and they think, if someone had showed up at that, they go, oh, I could never do this. But where did it start? How small was, for example, the Christmas party?
Well, I'll give you better examples. The first Christmas party I ever did, it was a date auction. My buddies were just I wanted to do sub for Santa for a family, and I thought if I can raise $1,000, this is 6 years ago. I said, if I can raise $1,000, I think we can give a really cool sub for Santa to a couple families. And so I auctioned off dates with my friends, some girls I was friends with, some guys I was friends with. And the first time we did it, I think we raised $1,500. It was most of my buddies just bidding on each other, right? So the next year, though, I was everyone was like, dude, that was a really fun time. Let's do it again. And so I did it the second year. And again, the goal was $2,000. And I think we ended up raising $35,000. And we ended up having several hundred people there. And what happened was you throw that first one, you just kind of get it under your belt. Same thing with the movie theater, right? First one, I was so nervous. Now we rent out a couple theaters per big movie that comes out. We have to because we have so many clients that want to go. Same thing with the fireworks show. The first year I did it, I think I had 70 people. And what I do though, Bill, is I say, it doesn't matter how many people come to the first one. It doesn't matter. Any event you do, you have to do it right. Because when you do it that way, everybody will come back. Everyone tells their friends, and you're building a reputation around, this guy is just a guy you want to be around. This guy does things the right way. And now that fireworks show that started with 70 people, I think this last year we had over 5,000 people show up. And, it's insane. People tell me they changed their plans around the holiday to make sure they don't miss this fireworks show. And so it's not so much a matter of how many people show up as your success. Just do it right. Do everything as best you can. And a good way to kind of measure that is if people are coming to do you a favor, you've screwed it up. You want people to want to come to your party because it's the place to be. So when I rent out a movie theater, I don't do it on Saturday morning or even the day it comes out. I always get the pre-premiere. I pay extra for that. The 7 o'clock start time where everybody wants to go, and I make it a big thing. And so I just want, whenever you're doing these events, you want to build a reputation of you need to be there. People get mad if they find out there was an event they weren't at.
Brilliant. You know what it reminds me of is, I'm sure you've watched this, the Kyle Whistle interview I did on open houses, because I know you and I have been talking about open houses, and you're like, it's sort of the next stage for you,
Sure.
And Kyle does that, the same thing that you do with the client parties, he's doing with the open houses, which is an event. I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, if I'm a typical agent and I'm selling 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 homes, what do I do?
So I think the key when you're getting started, if you don't have any money, you just got to get a little bit more creative with it. So people will donate stuff or do it for charity the first time. So for example, the Sub for Santa event that I did, because I did it for charity, I got every single thing we did was donated. The space, the band, everything else in between. And it's just a matter of putting in a little effort. But the cool thing about that, Bill, is you're building your SOI while you do that. I'm now friends with a couple of the local restaurant owners. The guy that owns the club is a close friend of mine now because we did that event together. I didn't know him before. I asked him if I could have his space for free for the night. I mean, this is the biggest club. Sky Club in Salt Lake is like the biggest one. And so you just have to get a little bit creative. I mean, we're salespeople, right? And that's kind of, you know, where the meat thing kind of helped me out, because I'd go to these businesses and you can't get past the secretary if you if she doesn't want you to be in there. She's gonna, you know, wait, what are you doing here? So I would just always walk right past, go right to the boss or the owner and just ask for it. You know, there's an art in just being able to get something done, and they appreciate that. So I think if you're worried about the cost, you can even rent out an ice skating rink for $150. You know, you can rent out a water park. Every city has a local pool or park that's not very expensive, a couple $100, and just tell your loan officer, say, look, I don't have money to do this, but I'm going to get some leads from it. I'm going to give them all to you, but you got to pay for it. And they'll do it, you know. And so you just got to get a little creative. You don't have to be psyched out about the number of people that do or don't come, or even just throw a party to start out for your local football team, your NFL team in your city, or your college team. And start with that, or do a tailgate and just have people come, something cheap and easy.
Just some excuse to build culture inside the community. So do you get business off of these parties? Like, is there tangible, like, yeah.
Here's the beauty of the whole thing, Bill, is when I started doing these client parties and calling my SOI instead of FSBOs, my business, first off, that first year alone, I added 40 more transactions. I quickly was into the mid, 120, 130 deals a year. And I think we did the math. I was like 85, 90% of my business was coming from my SOI. And so it's hard to equate, like, per event how many SOI deals I got from that. But my entire business, which this year will be, over 200 transactions, I mean, literally 90% of it still is coming from my SOI and doing these events. So yeah, and when people come up to me at an event and they're like this I did the Halloween party I just did last week. We did a corn maze and pumpkin patch, stuff like that, hay rides. And I think I had 5 or 6 people come up to me at the event, say, hey, I'm thinking of selling an investment property, or hey, we're gonna move up. And I just wrote their name down real quick on my phone. I just typed it in and I said, hey, have fun tonight. I'm going to call you tomorrow. And I think I got 3 listings from that event. I got 3 listings. I got 2 new buyers, one that's already under contract. So I literally, from that one event, 4 or 5 transactions right off the bat.
I love that you don't actually go straight into the real estate conversation while they're there at the party. You're like, hey, enjoy, such a key thing. Enjoy yourself. Have fun. I'll call you tomorrow, right? So it's not such a right hook. It's a little.
Well, yeah, I got 700 clients there that night. If I start having those one-on-one conversations for 10 minutes each, I'm not going to put the attention towards everybody as well. So.
Yeah. So in these parties, if you had to say, here's the 3 things that are absolutely necessary to be able to succeed with them or to throw a good party, what would you say they are?
I think the number one thing to remember is, and I see a lot of other agents will kind of copy me in town now, they'll do the fireworks show or the Easter egg hunt or whatever else, which is awesome. But one thing that I see them do that I just kind of laugh to myself is they'll put an invite out on Facebook. They'll say, anybody that wants to come, message me, or they'll send an email out. And that eliminates the whole purpose of doing the event. The whole point of doing the event is that I get to make 200 calls to my entire SOI to invite them to the event. So if I'm renting out a movie theater with 400 seats, that gives me 300 basically phone calls between people that can or can't come to start those conversations. And so the first key is the event itself is not the key to the whole thing. The whole key is the lead up and getting those people on board when you do the event. So making those phone calls and everything else. That's the first key that I would say. The second thing is again, I can't emphasize enough of if people are coming to do you a favor, you've screwed up the event. You've got to make your events the cool place to be, the place where everybody wants to come. And I do that by creating an atmosphere where I always have food. I always have my top clients get invited. I'm not afraid to call my buddies that own some of the biggest businesses in town. I got guys that have 1,800 employees with businesses, and I'll invite them because they want an escape or an excuse to go hang out with their family or would see their friends as well. And so that's the second thing is invite everybody that you think would actually be influencers don't think they won't come, because a lot of times they will. And then the third key to the whole thing, I would say, is just to make sure that any event you do, again, that it's strategically done and you've actually formulated a plan as far as what you're trying to accomplish. Too many times we just do an event because we're told to do an event. So I say, all right, who are 15 people I want to meet? How can I meet them? Who do I know that knows them? I'll call those people and maybe tell them, hey, see if so-and-so would like to come, or whatever else. And that builds that network over time. And just everybody, every year, it's pretty simple now. My business is on autopilot from a networking standpoint and from an SOI standpoint. Everyone knows my events are coming up. They look forward to them. They're always there. And so it just rolls.
And I think, I love this. Number one, the event is this, you want to make it sexy. You want to make it relevant. You want to make it hot, but it's an excuse to make the calls. You haven't given up on prospecting for the sake of just doing these events. You're using this event as the excuse to make the calls, not in lieu of, which is brilliant, right? Correct. And I love, don't be afraid of inviting the bigwigs, the influencers in the community. I think here, just start, do one. Everyone's so afraid, you know what I mean? And just, would you say that's part of it too? Like, get your first one down. It's not that big of a deal. It's not that crazy. What do you say to those people that are nervous about that?
I've talked to a lot of agents that ask me about my events and stuff, and they're so afraid to do it. And I kind of laugh. I'm like, if you do the event well, I mean, if 10 people show up, those 10 are going to be like, man, that was really cool. Like, I can't believe no one else showed up, but they'll be like, man, that was really fun. And so just do it. Yeah, I like the fear that other people have, I didn't have naturally because I threw parties in high school and college and stuff like that. But there's that fear that what can possibly go that wrong? Nothing. So like, just throw the event. Just do it.
And people want to have fun, man. Like, that's the thing. Like, we want to have fun, man.
Yeah, the best part of my whole business now is it's so fun to do business the way I do it. I hated calling for sell-by owners, even though I was really good at it. I almost put FSBO King as my license plate. I thought I was I took pride in my ability to list a FSBO. I got it down to 1 out of 12 calls I could list a FSBO. If I jump on today, I know I can list 1 out of 15 calls that I make to a FSBO. I don't want to do it. I've set up a business and a life. I mean, Bill, I've been out of town 30 times this year. I went to Africa for a few weeks. I went to Amsterdam. I go on these, trips with this organization all over the world, out of, these, Mexico and Dominican Republic, Haiti, Ecuador.
Which by the way, I want to give you a huge shout out. Many of you don't, like, you just sort of glossed over what the charitable the organization is, right? Guys, what Jimmy does is it's basically sex slave trade, right? That goes on in the world where these young women and young men are stolen from their families. And he's now involved with an organization that goes in and they do the sting operations. They end up going into where this is taking place, and they end up busting the criminals that are doing this. Jimmy, what is the name of the organization?
Yeah, it's called Operation Underground Railroad. And it's starting to get huge. You see them all over the media nowadays. So you'll start seeing it all over the place.
Yeah, and you set up your business around your life, which keeps you inspired, doesn't it? I mean,
yeah. Well, my baseball team just clinched we're going to the World Series this next week. The Cleveland Indians, first time since I was a little kid, and so I've already got tickets to every single game booked. But here's the cool thing, Bill, that you can appreciate. I'm going to the game with a different person, game 1 and game 2 in Cleveland, game 3, 4, and 5, whether it's in LA or Chicago, I've got a different guy lined up to go to each game with me. And then game 6 and 7, I got someone going with me as well. So like these trips that I go on and all these organizations that I'm a part of, if you want to grow your network, go out of town with people, because you build a bond. Like if you want to get somebody in your elite level of your SOI, you go out of town for 2-3 days at a time. You guys are friends for life. Like half my deals now, I bet, come from someone I met either in Lake Powell or out of town on a trip that we all did to Vegas or to LA or something, or, going out of the country. So it's that networking aspect again. And so even though people are always like, Jimmy's always out of town, like every week he goes somewhere, that's how I build my SOI. That's how I've built my business, where these people actually, we spend enough time together they want to be, they want to do business in as well. So it works out really well, and it builds a life that I love to be able to have.
Do you know what's crazy, brother, is I never even realized this, but the Larry H. Miller trip that you did, I mean, all of that was although was fun, was also a function of your business. Correct. As well too, is creating those relationships. So Jimmy, we've got 3 things here to make these events shine, to make them effective, to make them sparkle. But that's not all you do with your database. So, I want Real Success Nation to really understand that this is just one facet of an overall strategy and plan. What else, if I want to crush my, the database and referral business, repeat business, what are the other components that are a must that I have in there?
So there's a couple things, and Tom always says there's no bad way to get a good lead. I take that to heart. So if like for some reason I hit the fan on business, I needed to get some stuff done, FSBOs and expireds immediately would come into play. I do have a farm that I farm. I use Boomtown. I do the open houses. My agents do on my team. But as far as my SOI goes, there's a couple key strategies on top of the trips and the events that I do that work out really well. And the first thing is Facebook. Facebook is, in the best way I can explain it, I do networking. I teach networking at the local colleges here once a semester. They have me come in and talk about this a little bit because my Facebook reach, I put a good post up, I get a couple hundred likes every time I do it. And what I do on Facebook is I treat it like a room full of my friends. So anytime you come into that room of your friends, diverse friends, if you would say this thing to them, then you say it on your Facebook. If you wouldn't, then don't say it on your Facebook. So for example, agents are always posting their listing on Facebook. Would you ever walk into a room of your friends, Bill, and say like, hey guys, just let you know, I just took a new listing down in Alpine. It's 400. They'd be like, what the hell's wrong with you? Get out of here. We're trying to hang out, dude. But what I would write is something like along the lines of like, title company had fresh cookies. First time in a long time. Market must be picking up. Because something like that, I would say, right? Or like on April Fool's Day last year, I was like, all right, what would be a funny real estate post? So about 1 out of every 3 or 4 posts, I'll mix real estate into it. Something about my life that's fun and interesting. Like you saw my billboard that I put up in town.
Dude, tell them about the billboard. I love it.
I saw, an agent in South Carolina put a billboard up that said, moving to Canada with a picture of Hillary and Trump and said, I'll sell your house, whatever, if you're moving to Canada. And I was like, that's hilarious. And I was pissed that I didn't think of it first, but then I'm like, he's in South Carolina, who cares? So I put it up in Utah. It's a cartoon of Trump and Hillary, and it says, moving to Canada, and we'll sell your house, Jimmy Rex, rexrealestateteam.com. And I've had literally probably 600 to 700 people in person or over Facebook or text me or whatever and mention my billboard. And so what it did is it just kept me in their face the whole time. And on my Facebook, people keep tagging me and stuff over and over again on the billboard, stuff like that. But like as far as like, so like I was saying, like last New Year or last April Fool's, I just posted on my wall. I said, knocked on a lady's door today to show a house, and she started yelling, "Why are you here at my house? My house is not for sale. People keep coming by." And as I started to apologize, she said, "I'm just messing with you, young man. April Fool's, come on in." And like I had like 700 people like that post. They thought it was the funniest April Fool's joke. And, just something stupid like that. But everybody that read that was like, Jimmy's out showing homes. Jimmy's in real estate. Jimmy, real estate, Jimmy. So
it's that soft jab that Gary Vee and Tom and I talk about, right? So many people come into Facebook and they're right hooking the entire time. And it gets tired, and it gets the audience gets fatigued of that message. So you're sprinkling in little bit real estate in terms of, hey, great new open house, title just brought fresh cookies, or in this, so it's still real estate, but it's not that right hook. Do you ever do the right hook on Facebook?
Yeah, I'll do the right hook like once every month, where I'll put an invite up of one of my events or something like that, or I'll just put like an article like, hey guys, check this out. Here's a graph that shows, interest rates now versus 10 years ago and what that does to your mortgage payment. Listen, if you're going to buy a house, you need to call me. This is the difference. But I'll do it subtly once every month or two, not like all the time. But there's a real estate post at least once a week on my Facebook, but no one ever looks at it as like Jimmy's trying to, whore himself out on Facebook. And so nobody blocks me, and people, you want people to remember Jimmy real estate.
So I've got I got the parties and the events and the trips as a key component. I've got, actively and effectively involved on Facebook, and you and I have talked about how important that message is. I mean, with Facebook Live, hey guys, hey Jimmy, do you want to say something about Facebook Live and the importance of message? Because you and I were in conversation about this earlier this week, man.
Like the last Facebook Live video I did, I think I had 13 leads from that. Buyers call me. I just did a quick explanation of the difference between buying a house with a 15-year loan versus a 30-year loan and how it pays itself off. It was about a 3.5-minute video, and I think I got 12, 13 leads from that. People called me and be like, dude, I had no idea. Let's buy a place. And I ended up selling 6 of them, a duplex or a fourplex within a month. So from Facebook Live video. Yeah. So it's my strategy going forward. It's going to be a big part of it for sure.
So I've got Facebook, I got party. What else? What's the third component that you say, okay, if you really want to crush it, you got to add this, or you got to have this as part of your strategy?
So the third thing is people all the time come to me, they're like, dude, I want to network. How do I get to know the people that you know? And how do I network like you? And I say, look, more than anything else, especially in real estate, people are going to do business with you if 2 things, Bill. They trust you and they trust that you know what you're doing. Those are the 2. That's it. They don't even have to like you. If they trust you though, like you're being honest with them, and then they trust that you know what you're doing, you're good. So you have to understand and know. You have to keep, that's why I've stayed in coaching, even though my production's been the top in my office for 10 years in a row. It's the reason I got a master's degree 3 years ago in real estate development, because I wanted to be that guy that everyone trusts, that I know what I'm doing. And I believe everyone, nothing else, they're like, yeah, Jimmy knows what he's doing. And then the second thing with the networking is people always like, I want to meet so-and-so because he could buy such a good house or whatever, or he knows so many people. I always come from contribution. So like my best connections that I have now, I probably didn't get my first lead from them for a couple of years, so like 2 years. And what happened was I would rent out a movie theater just for this sales group or whatever. You saw me do that a couple of times.
Yep.
You take a local company in town that has a really killer sales group, and I would rent a theater out for them. I was just trying to create contribution where they'd want to do business with me eventually, and just go, I like how this guy does things. I want to be in business with him. Or when I meet somebody, they always like, do you have a business card? I said, you know what? I don't. Let me add you on Facebook though. So then all of a sudden I can actually create a relationship. I'll just add him right there. I'm like, I don't have a business card, but here, what's your Facebook? If he doesn't have Facebook, I'm like, what's your email? Whatever. I want to start that relationship, because now he can see, wow, Jimmy's like, he's not just this guy throwing a party. This dude crushes it at real estate. This guy really knows his stuff. So now we actually have a relationship forming, as opposed to me getting his business card or me immediately trying to hit him up for business. Try to become the person. And I always say, if you want to meet those people, whoever they are, Bill, you got to become the person that those people want to meet. Because if you try to go to somebody to meet them, somebody that's got a lot going on in their life, they have so many people trying to do that. But I always said, how can I actually create contribution for this person? And that's the difference is literally, and everybody has something. One of my top connections, he's a guy that plays defensive end for the Detroit Lions now. He's one of my best friends in the world. But we first met because he told me later, he goes, you were the only guy that for 6 months upon meeting you never asked me about football. You just wanted to know how I was doing, or we talked about life. You introduced me to my girlfriend, who's now my wife. And that was how we formed that relationship. It was a true win-win. I was trying to come from contribution instead of what can this guy who's like a famous college athlete in town do for me. I just simply said, like, this dude, how can I help him? Like, and as I started talking with him, you start to emphasize or empathize with certain things that he doesn't have very many true people around, because everyone just knows him as this guy that's on TV or whatever. Same thing with business owners, it's always like, well, people are like, well, what can I get from this guy or whatever else? And I always just said, if I can help him enjoy his life a little bit more, or have a little bit of something in his life he didn't have before, he's going to want to eventually at least have a relationship with me. And that's kind of how I've done all that from the beginning.
Dude, right there, you pretty much summed up Jimmy Rex. They're like, honest to goodness, you summed up your life in terms of how you occur, brother. You know what I mean? Like, you are someone that is always looking for, how can I contribute to this person? Whether it's your clients, whether it's you taking people down to Lake Powell, whether it's the parties that you're throwing, whether it's the events, the client that you have that calls you that you've never worked with before, that's you, man. And I think if more people who are watching would take that on. And I challenge you to take that on of not what can I get from this person, but what can I give? Jimmy, would you say they'd have everything that they want in their life at that point?
Everybody needs something for sure, you know, and find out what that is and provide it for them. That's the key.
Brilliant, man. So, hey, freaking amazing interview, brother. And just to watch the growth and to have the privilege, my friend, to be part of it, you know, it's humbling for me, because you have so exceeded, you know, not the expectations. I expect you to do even more. Okay. Like, let's be very, very clear. As your coach and as your friend, I see an even bigger ceiling. However, to make the change, to go from for sale by owner, to be intelligent enough to be able to switch over to your center of influence, but still have that FSBO, you know, as it's needed, dude, all of us have grown from that. All of us can grow from your story. Anything you want to leave these guys with as we wind down here?
No, I want to emphasize, again, you've been my coach, my personal coach for 6 years now. There's been, most people would be like, what are you possibly still getting from this? And I can honestly say, Bill, that literally every single week we talk, I get something that adds to my business from our coaching. And so, you know, I don't care who your coach is, whether it's a life coach or Tom's group or anybody else, but you've got to have people in your life that aren't yes men, that'll tell you how it is. Like where you said that, you know, your expectation for me is bigger. Oh, I know, because you kick my ass on every call that we have and tell me how I need to pick it up, you know? And so that though is so valuable, because so many people get afraid to tell you what you need to hear. It's the same thing with, you know, if you want to be a great agent, you go in and you tell people what they need to hear, not what they want to hear. But is like, if you're an influencer in your community, it gets harder and harder for people to be that way. So it's so important to have somebody in your life that you can bounce anything off, whether it's, you know, I had something on our call with you a few weeks ago that I wasn't telling anybody. It was a little bit more personal, but me and you worked through it. And within a week or 10 days, I was through that issue and on to kicking butt again, you know? And so it was, you've got to have somebody in your life that is unbiased, that doesn't have their own agenda about it, that can give you good, honest information. And frankly, the most expensive advice you ever get is usually free. So I can't.
I love it. Hey, brother, I want to throw something out there. I think we should do another interview, because there is this other conversation that is about winning the first battles of the day and you and your schedule. So I want to circle back around and you know, maybe in a couple of months, and I'm sure everyone will love that, to discuss that, and also what you did with for sale by owners to crush it. I know everyone's sitting here going, yes, I love this whole center of influence and database conversation. And the hell did this guy do with for sale by owners? So would you be willing to do that in the future?
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Awesome. So, hey, you are now the Real Success Nation's major connect here in Utah. So how do they get a hold of you if they have referrals? And hey, yeah, we're back in that California is getting too expensive. People are moving from California to Utah to, you know, like we're starting to see that again here in our state. So how do they get a hold of you, man?
Yeah, and I do work with a lot of people that come from California, investors, things like that. But my email, jimmyrex@kw.com, JIMMYREX@kw.com is the easiest way to get a hold of me. Super easy. Just my name at kw.com.
Excellent, brother. Well, dude, I got to say, amazing opportunity for me to have interviewed you and for us to have this conversation. I'm walking away from this right now with, you know, that's the goal, is 3 major components that to implement. Number 1, get this whole party going, right? Let's get this party started, as the song goes, right? And make it effective. I mean, you can go back and you can listen to all the components. Number 2, utilize Facebook, utilize it effectively, utilize it elegantly, right? Jab, 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 and not so many right hooks. And last but not least, know your shit, guys. You know, like, know your shit. Because if you throw the party and all of a sudden you're just walking around and they've got real estate questions, but you're not able to answer them effectively, or you don't have the confidence and you're not their go-to person, then you've just missed an opportunity. And it's about contribution was the last thing. It's about contribution. So guys, first and foremost, hope you had a wonderful, wonderful Halloween, or Halloween coming up. And we got like 2.5 months to crush, or 2 months to crush the rest of this year. So 2017, baby, it's upon us right now. And for all of you, I think using the information from this interview, you're going to be able to actually work more effectively with your database, to have more fun doing it, and most importantly, to be able to actually, build a business that gives you freedom. So, hey, Jimmy, thank you so much for being on the call today. I appreciate you. Love you to death, brother. And most importantly, guys, if you do want to get a hold of Jimmy, he gave you your information. I will look forward to speaking to you guys next month. J Rex, thanks again, brother.
Thanks, Bill. Appreciate you.
Okay, thanks again. Bye-bye.